when I was doing sales, I would sell credit cards. And when I would approach someone, I would be like, hey, do you like stand-up comedy at the end of the pitch? And they would be like, yeah, I don't want the credit card, but you seem like a nice guy. And I would, well, and then they'd be like, well, when's your next show? So when I would go off the list, they would just doze out. So I was like, yo, Ariel, we need like a permanent, he was already on it, but I didn't, I did my part of vocal. I was like, we need a permanent like location. And now we have a club. And it's been 3 years. Like it's been like no time. It's like, we started putting shows together, what, 2020, 2019 summer? That like, this is crazy. It's actually insane.
Wild, man. You're a comedy club owner in Toronto, Canada.
Yeah, a guy from South Africa and a guy from Hamilton. And then the stereotypes are real. We're Jews, and like we know what's
funny.
funny.
How to run a business.
Like, you know, other comedians are like, oh, how do I get stage time? Open a fucking comedy club. Oh, no one will book me. I'm white and male and straight. Open a comedy club.
It's Johnny Late Night, and now here's your host, Johnny Rogers.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode number 53 of the Johnny Rogers Show. My guest today hails from Hamilton, but now resides north of Bloor in Toronto. He is just like every other short, stoner Jewish comedian you want him to be. He's the perfect blend of chaotic and controlled mayhem that he calls Sobelmania. He has opened for Gilbert Gottfried, Tony Hinchcliffe, and was featured at the roast of the Iron Sheik. You can catch Brando Mondays until September 12th at Boxcar Social Harbourfront, Wednesday through Sunday for 2 shows, 8 and 10 p.m. only at the Backroom Comedy Club. And make sure you check out his podcast with Ariel Kagan called the Coke Dads Podcast, brought to you by Bubbies Boys Presents. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my friend and yours, Brandon Sobel. Now we're rolling on everything. Welcome everybody on YouTube to the show. This is my guest today, Brandon Sobel. Is it Sobel?
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
The other half of Bubbies Boys Presents. If you watched the episode last week, then you would have saw Ariel Kagan. That is the other half of Bubbies Boys, and they run the Backroom Comedy Club together in Toronto. That's like, dude, like kudos to you guys. I love your Wyrdo Carnival show idea as well. And Ariel was saying that every week he doesn't think it'll get weirder, but it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. How'd you come up with that idea, that concept?
Oh, cool. We're already jumping in. Hey, so years when I started, I had the luxury to do a show at a Vapor Lounge in Brantford. And it's where it all started, the Wyrdo Carnival, which obviously the focus back then was stand-up comedy, but it was a way for like burlesque dancers and musicians. And yeah, at the time focus was music and comedy. And we would end each show with burlesque. And like, I rap. So it was an extension of that, which was cool, where it was a way, and it's still a way. It's just now we've kind of evolved. Now I've even taken it up one step further, where it's the audience will pick a genre of music. So it's not necessarily rap. So like for Ariel's show, Crowd Control at 8 o'clock, I'm sure you guys spoke about that, but that's it's no real material.
It's like all riffing, right?
There's a bucket with audience suggestions.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's a bucket with audience suggestions, and you literally just come up with ideas on the spot. Or what I do every week is I start my week there. So I'll try brand new material I've never tried. And then from there, I'll use it where like the audience picks a genre, and then I'll make a song up on the spot and use the bucket as lyrics or themes.
I love that.
Yeah. So then we're now wild, like balloon animals, magicians, like just so much weird, like,
Like, I love that concept though of just having like a variety show. Like, Anto Chan, right? He also loves doing like variety show style like concepts where they'll have like maybe poetry, and then they'll also have like a musician play, and then there's a comedian doing a set, like just mixing and melding all of these arts together. I think it's brilliant. And even like there's so many shows where it's just, the typical lineup. So it's so refreshing to see people trying to like kind of challenge that and morph it into something that will also like benefit you as a comedian, right? Like just having a show where once a week you have to do no material and just riff off these suggestions, that'll help you with your improv skills like immediately. If something happens, yeah, you make new jokes off of it too, right? Like that's the best shit ever.
Well, for me, it's just beautiful. And I'm sure for a lot of other people, I found comedy and I fell in love, but before that I was making music. So for me, and then again, through this journey, you meet people like yourself, or you meet other musicians / people with other talents, that this is like, hey, do you miss your old talent? Like I've been fortunate that Aiden Long shows up with a guitar and he's able to play any genre they throw at us. And then between the two of us, we just have a great time. and it's
That's
just
amazing.
it's literally like we're jamming on the spot, and it's just fun. It's gotten wild. And
What's
it's just,
I was gonna say, when you got into music, how old were you?
oh, okay. So my first memories ever, I'm sitting in the back of my parents' car, and on road trips, my brother would be like, when I say road trips, it's like Hamilton's
Yeah,
Wrong.
yeah,
But it's he would be like, "What's that instrument? What's that instrument?" And I had to like dissect music, and it was insane to the point where I just developed an ear from it. So then when I got into music, I started playing trumpet grade 7. But from there, I remember in grade 8 or 9, there was a talent show, and a guy went up and rapped, and the audience went nuts. And me and my best friend were like, "This isn't very good." And
yeah.
then it was just like we would freestyle, and it was just like you know what I'm saying? Like one of my first was even making music. I was in grade 5, and a bunch of us heard No Doubt. We're like, let's get together. And with like no music skills, we got together, like 6 of us, and we just like thought we'd be able to make music without any training. And then it was crazy. But years later, I ended up in a band with like 1 or 2 of those guys was in that band later. So it was like,
Yeah, that's that interesting growth, like from meeting each other and seeing what they were capable of at that time, but still seeing the passion, and then reconnecting years later is so crazy. Yeah.
Or even like the whole concept, like you just put it on an album. To me, I could throw some lyrics together, no problem. But I have no idea how to make a beat. I have no idea how to record myself. And that's just cool that I have the outlet as with the Wyrdo Carnival and like Ariel show to throw like the crowd control to throw that out there. But there's not much more I could do unless I got together with a producer. And then you see these musicians like put together like, and by all means too, I'm not a trained musician. Like, yeah, I can play the trumpet, but I'm the kind of guy, if we're jamming, I'll pick up a guitar and find a note or 2. And I can just like, play this, like I can play pop music. You know, like my friends made jokes I was the pop star, where it was like I could find 3 notes and make it sound cool, or like it wasn't necessarily. By all means, I'm not a musician. I'm just a guy that knows how to have fun, and I guess I have beat. Yeah, so
I love the self-reflection on that. But dude, I didn't know what I did. I didn't know how to mix music or mix audio, and I still like. There's so much to learn, and I was saying this to Ariel too in that conversation. Like the first time that I started trying to fix my voice in an audio program, I was like, damn, you need to go to school for like audio engineering to really do a good job at this, because like, yeah, you can apply filters and move stuff around, but at the end of the day, there's always like, at least for me, I'm like, there's something missing.
You're not going to find that. Like, that's the beauty of the progression. When you fall in love with something and you're obsessed, and it's cool that we have this talk versus like comedy, same thing, versus anything, versus cooking, versus math. If you fall in love with something, it's just, you're going to be bad at it. So you just do it. And even if you're good at it, you're one of those select few. It's like, it's almost awesome to be bad at it at first. So you have, you know, eventually you're going to be trash, and you have to, but once you, like, that's the trusting the process. And then once you enjoy the process, and like for you, once you find that filter you love, you're like, that's my voice. Or like recently with my comedy, I've fallen, it's just, I'll listen back to it. Now I'm laughing consecutively. And like, I had a couple of applause breaks this weekend, and it's just like, holy crap. It's like hard work pays off. That's as easy as that. Like I just,
there is nothing better than feeling that training, like working in the moment, you know, like that is just such a beautiful feeling when you're like, oh, this is something I've practiced for, and now here it is coming to fruition, and you can feel that as you're doing it. It's just such a surreal experience.
Crazy. People say practice makes permanent. I say practice makes permanent. Practice makes perfect. Perfect is such a subjective term where you're making art, because it can only get better. Like painting. Like art never stops. So it's just like, well, practice will make permanent. I've got lucky to work with guys like Ariel Kagan and like Robert Kagan. That between the 2 of them, I learned so much that, like, I don't know if you've seen Ariel. He's the king of crowd work. Ariel's improvisation skills, like, don't get me wrong, his jokes are great too, but Ariel improvising is like watching a maestro. And then you see Robert and the young Jew, if no one's familiar, he has these jokes. It's almost as if he's pitching himself like a softball and then just popping it out of the park. And then now they're just watching that, and then being authentically myself is like, it's a dream come true.
I love the confidence too. Like I saw your Coke Dads episode where you're like, I am the most electrifying comedian.
Well, I've been watching a lot of the A&E wrestling documentaries, and to quote me, I am one of the most. Like I'm not the but it's, you gotta, it's different. Like when I go up there, this is a joke I tell, but my girlfriend a couple weeks ago, I did a show and I was like, hey, I did good. And she's like, yeah. I was like, that was a really good show. She's like, it was really good, but we need you to be great. And I was like, what? She's like, we need you. And then it turns into
like, okay, boss.
Yeah, well, it's just, I'm so grateful she said it. And then she's like, when we're at home, or if anyone knows me off stage or off camera, I do this thing where I get angry and it's like a Tasmanian devil. And I get all crazy. And it makes
spin
me
around
laugh.
in a circle.
I just get like this mania to me. It's just like, it's crazy. And now on stage, I've been able to bring it out. And it's kind of surreal because you get off stage, and this is still part of the joke where she'll be like, hey, baby, that was great. Like, we need you to be that manic on stage. And then we get home and she's like, you're way too manic right now. You need to go for a walk. And it's just like now I'm glad that I've been able to, like, over the last couple of weeks, figure out what I'm supposed to do. But it's just like a task to ask someone to go up there and be like insane and like control that insanity.
It's so true. It's so true, dude. Like, I honestly think that is also a little bit like explains the Will Smith Chris Rock situation. Not to beat a dead horse on this, but like looking at it so far removed now from the event, if you look at the movie that he was just up for, like King Richard, it was about a father who was like needing to stand up for the women in his life, and like it felt almost like he was living in that character still, even at the Oscars. You know what I mean? Like, he just looked different. Like, there was like a different energy in him, as if his mind was like in that character's mind.
He wasn't there.
He wasn't really there. Like, and it's the same thing. If like you have this big character on stage where you're playing this manic person, it's gonna like trickle over. But it's gonna trickle over even if you're faking it like into your real life. And it's the same thing with comics who like are like, you know, overweight, and then they think that like, oh, I can't lose the weight because then I won't be funny anymore. It's like too much of the stage presence is trickling into your real life. Like, you need to balance those two.
Totally, because you're already with these arts, and the more you progress, you're already alienating yourself. You're already, the more shows you do, like, yeah, you meet friends in the circle. Like, I'm grateful for my group that I met, but before I moved to Toronto, everyone was notorious saying Toronto's like big on cliques. And then you move here and it's like, are they cliques or are they friend groups? Like, for me, I met 2 other Jews that never hung out with Jews when they grew up. So now we're 3 Jews that are just like, holy shit, we all have bubbies. And then we're all like, 2 of us are premature. We all have Coke dads. And it's just like, there's a lot of things where it's like, are we a clique, or did I just find people that have similar experiences?
That's what I've said about the Toronto comedy scene too, is like, if you're coming into it, it feels like cliques. But what you begin to realize after spending some time there is it's groups of people who have similar interests.
That's
like,
it.
It's like they would have been friends if they worked together at Staples. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's what you learn, is that they would have been friends outside of comedy.
Exactly. So that it's not really cliques. It's just they happen to group together, and all of them happen to like this one comedy venue or whatever it is. And that goes for all over the city, independent and professional. You know, not that independent isn't professional, but chain wise, I guess I should say.
It depends what you want to do, right? Like, we're fortunate now that it's 2022, where like you can be your authentic self. You can go on stage and tell people the truth, where maybe back in the past that wouldn't have been acceptable, right? Like, we're very lucky for that progression. And it's cool you shared it on our podcast, but what comes back a lot on our podcast is how you got to be your best self. Like, yeah, me and Ariel are friends enough, and we have some people in our circle that, like, everyone wants to be the best. Don't get me wrong, but you're not going to be the best without being your best self. I'm only in competition with Brandon. If Brandon's having a great night, I succeed. It has nothing to do with anyone else. So when the come out, it's like, you'll see people that are friends with different groups, and they're kind of jaded, and they're kind of angry, and they're kind of throwing shade, where it's just like, yo, doesn't matter what anyone else is doing but you just have to do you at the highest level, and you'll notice. And then the universe plays out. Like, it's cool we're doing this today. I actually have been dating my girlfriend. I met her a year ago today, and all of it differently with this one is I focused on myself. A couple of days before I met her, Ariel's birthday, I promised I'd focus on Bubbies Boys, and we'll see where it goes. And then sure enough, the universe was just like, hey, here's a neighbor that has the exact same interests as you, and is beautiful, and her soul's beautiful, and she makes music. And like, it's just like, you know, it's cool.
Yeah, that's a cool feeling, man, when you start, like, the moment you start just only focusing on yourself and your own personal growth and chasing those obsessions and like really sticking with things and taking care of yourself, that's when you begin to exude confidence, and people are just naturally attracted to that. There just becomes, you just draw the right people.
You're a lot like me. We're both we have a light. And it's like when we're shining, like I'm sure you get it all the time too. And a lot of comedians have this light where it's just like our light shine. And it's just like, you don't have to dim someone else's light for your light to shine. And you'll notice if your light's shining, it's kind of like flies and like things are attracted to you. Like I do sales, right? And one of the things I try to tell people with sales is like, just have a good time. Fun's contagious.
Yeah.
Like if people are on Twitch right now watching us and we're laughing, chances are they're laughing or like, oh man, like it's played out that people on their own podcast are laughing and having
or they're like gay.
Yeah, but we could be doing gayer stuff on this podcast.
Yeah, that's very true. quick, blow yourself.
It's like I had a big one, but my back ain't great. So it's, maybe one day. Live on the Johnny Rogers show.
That's like this podcast. I'm like, is it a comedy podcast because I do comedy sometimes, or is it just a podcast? Like,
I think it's
you. Yeah.
And the clips I've seen, it's you having a light to showcase people that you respect.
It's true.
A way like the conversation we just had, it's a way with your light glows. Some people do great, like look at Nardwar, look at Leno, look at Conan. Like some people are even like amazing just showcasing other people. Mm-hmm. That's what I love about producing shows, where it's like,
right.
What separates a really good host from not a good host is someone who realizes it's not about them. And it's just like
they want to curate the best lineup. That's the most fun thing.
That's it. And it's like when you're the host, it's like you can do whatever you want to keep the show going, but like it's a dinner party. Like everyone's gonna have a good time. I'm having a lot of fun.
Me too, man.
My brand. I'm having too much fun.
Yeah, that was like, I mean, it's interesting switching between all of the different arts or obsessions, if we want to just call them that. Like when music became an obsession for me, like at the start of the pandemic, and I was diving into like, videos on YouTube teaching me how to rap and how to produce music and how to fix my voice, and like watching hours and hours of that stuff and like taking notes and then actually doing it and applying it and getting obsessed with it, and then letting go of perfection, and just when I felt that I enjoyed the song, I just released it. I just like put it out with not an album, just a single, just throw it out on SoundCloud or whatever. Whoever wants to listen to it, they get to listen to it. And then trying to apply that to other things is the interesting thing, because you would assume that it would be just as easy, but I just did that with this podcast, right? I was like, I don't know what this podcast is. That's me caring too much about.
I love with music, and like music's an interesting one because like comedy might hit like your brain, but music hits your soul. So like it's literally everything you just said about any other passion. It's just a matter of actually doing it. It's a matter of like, and the thing is don't put a definition on it. Like when I started rapping, it would be so hard to get the lyrics out of my head, and I would be so fixated on writing raps. Then I just realized how to rap, and then flow was so much more, if not like equally, if not more important than the lyrics. And then now with rap or I make music, it's like I'm just trying to have fun, because it's like when I'm having fun, it's like why else would I be doing this stuff if I'm not having fun? Like
that's me with comedy.
Well, yeah, with comedy, but that's the thing. It's all your own growth. Like my comedy story, I started in 2012, got hit by a car in 2014.
Jesus.
Now, looking back at it, I cracked my pelvis and couldn't walk and shit.
Dude, so, tell me about that after you finish your thought.
Well, no, it's like when that happened, comedy slowed down because I couldn't walk for 9-12 weeks. I was with a girl that was sort of like, she wanted comedy to work, but then it was like, that wasn't the dream. Like my dream's always been to write sitcoms, like, so I went back to school.
You are Jewish. No.
Look at my face, man. Yeah, but I went back to school. I worked on Big Brother Canada. I worked on the PGA Tour. And it's just like, I miss stand-up. Like after putting in 120 hours a week, like Big Brother Canada, I would go from Hamilton, commute to Etobicoke. I would do 14-hour, 16-hour shift, come back, sleep for like 5-6 hours, go back. And it was just like a reality check where it's just like, this is all it takes to be successful. A group of like-minded people can accomplish anything. So Then I started doing sales because I like the taste of prosciutto. I was selling, only working 90-hour weeks, not 120. Missed comedy, got back on stage, moved to Toronto, not even for comedy. I got an opportunity to move here. My brother bought a house and he had rent control. The Raptors were about to win the championship. So if anyone asks, you say comedy, but I moved here for the Raps. And then I went to buy weed at a comedy club off a comedian. He offered me safety, and I haven't looked back since.
That's such a Joey Diaz move to like tell the person buying weed to come to the show. You watch the show and then they sell it.
And throw me on. No, he didn't tell. That's the thing. I went to buy weed. He's like, "Do you want to spot?" It wasn't, "Do you want to come watch the show?"
Interesting.
It was like one of the guys from the Brandon's apartment stuff. So I had a web show back in 2013, 14. It was doing very well, but the car accident kind of slowed it down. But one of the guys on it just wanted to buy some gas, said, "Come to the club." It was one of my favorite clubs. So I was like, "Man, let's see who I see." It was like, "Hey, do you want a spot?" And I was like, "Yeah." And once you get that first laugh, it's like, this is better than sex. This is better than drugs.
Yeah.
You know, like this is something.
Especially after taking time off too. It's like that first show, you're just like, God damn, that felt so good. Like, I don't know, for me at least, like after taking that time away during like the, that 2-year stretch basically of like 2020 till almost 2022. I think I did it a little bit in 2021, but not frequently at all. Coming back, it was just like, oh, I'm actually having fun at this now. Like in 2019 and before that, it was like a grind every single day. It was constantly everything I was thinking about. But it was like, that made me realize too, like being obsessed with music, being obsessed with comedy. I was obsessed with comedy in an unhealthy way. I was obsessed with music in a way that was actually like therapy and healing for me in a way. And then coming back to comedy, I can actually look at it with new eyes and enjoy like the process of it.
It's almost as if we had reverse experiences.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh, COVID was weird for me because it was like, I only wanted to see my family, hug people, and do stand-up. And it was just like, it was so weird how I wasn't so, like I would be here and there, but I wasn't so into it. And then when they took it away from me and I thought I would never be able to do it again. And I'm not gonna say comedy's my purpose, it's part of my purpose, but like when they took it away, it redefined everything. It was like, this all started because they let us out in the summer. Ariel, Robert, and I produced a show in 420 Cannabis Court outside, 120 people, sold it out 2 months in a row. We started getting offers from different venues to like, Free Play reached out to us, the Parkdale Hall reached out to us, Snakes and Lattes reached out to us. These people were just hitting us. And then finally, like, when I was doing sales, I would sell credit cards. And when I would approach someone, I would be like, "Hey, do you like stand-up comedy?" at the end of the pitch. And they would be like, "Yeah, I don't want the credit card, but you seem like a nice guy." And I would, well, and then they would be like, "Well, when's your next show?" So when I would go off the list, they would just doze out. So I was like, "Yo, Ariel, we need like a permanent." He was already on it, but I didn't. I did my part of vocal. I was like, "We need a permanent like location." And now we have a club, and it's been 3 years. Like it's been like full time. It's like we started putting shows together. What 2020, 2019 summer. That like this is crazy. It's actually
that's
insane.
Wild, man. You're a comedy club owner in Toronto, Canada.
Yeah, a guy from South Africa and a guy from Hamilton. And then the stereotypes are real. We're Jews, and like we know what's funny.
How to run a business.
Like, other comedians are like, "Oh, how do I get stage time?" Open a fucking comedy club. Oh, no one will book me. I'm white and male and straight. Open a comedy club.
Save up all your money and open a comedy club. It's not like we don't, like there's no shortage of comedians in the city though. That's the beautiful thing is like, dude, you can just.
Bloor is nuts. There's the Comedy Lab. There's Tall Boys. There's Winota. There's us. There's Comedy Bar. But like, we're all different. So it doesn't matter. Like if you were to take all of these places on Bloor, throw in Yuck Yuck's absolute the corner. We can't even fill the Scotia Bay Theater.
Yeah.
Like, if we've got every venue, are we filling a theater? So if we're all full every night of the week, that's not even a third of the amount of people that went to see Russell Peters or Schultz.
Yeah.
Like it's
they
crazy.
Could still be at the same show. Didn't Drake
all be full every night and still not touch Russell Peters at Scotiabank last weekend?
This is so off subject, but also in a similar vein. I think Drake like canceled OVO Fest and then rescheduled it 2 days in advance on the same night as Lady Gaga. And people were like, because like, what if you had tickets to both? You know what I mean? If you were like one of those serious concert goers and you have tickets to both events now, it's like, he's like, he just goes, choose.
Yeah, but Drake's Drake. Like, it's kind of cool that if you look at the best entertainers in the world, they come from Canada.
Yeah.
And like some of them, like most of them are Jewish. So it's like,
we're hitting a trend here. That's the name of the episode. Most of them are Jewish.
Okay, I thought we were gonna call it obsession the way we were just because it goes back to like.
Yeah, I've done an episode on obsession before, and I've also repeated titles before as well.
Have you done Resilient?
I'm not resilience would be a good one.
Have you done that
honestly,
yet?
I don't think I've done that one yet. I actually don't think I've done it.
If anyone asks, like I've been trying to find a descriptor of myself, and people will throw out the word resilient, and I don't like it, but hit by a car, 50 Cent moment, man. It was just like, oh man, I got real.
What happened, dude? Like it just hit you just out of the blue. You didn't see it coming. Like what were you walking?
It was dark. It was raining. I was just literally walking home, saw the light, ran across like I always do, and then just from behind, I
hit you from behind.
Yeah, hit me from the right side back.
Oh my god! Did you go over on like?
I'll send you the song I recorded.
You explain it in the song?
Kinda, but like I talk it on stage now. It's like there's a lot of jokes to make of it. Like it was a Swiss Chalet delivery driver, so it's like if you want to see the level of jokes from like amateur comedy, they sell legs and ribs, and I like fucked up my leg and rib. You know?
No, yeah.
It was like that, where it's like my girlfriend said break a leg, and it's like I broke my pelvis, you know? Like you see the other guy, oh, he's perfectly fine, he was in a car. But now where I'm at, it's like I'll tell the truth, like woke up at the side of the road, you know?
Yeah.
Right, I'm like, yeah, the hospital. So it's just like, it's just progression. But yeah, he ended up taking me back to Swiss Chalet before he dropped off his deliveries.
What?
And yeah, I couldn't walk for a bit, and it sort of threw my life in a different direction, but then all the way back at the end of it.
Crazy, man. Did your shoes fly off?
I lost a shoe. Yeah.
It's wild how that happens.
Wild that you knew that, but yeah, lost a shoe.
It's an old Dane Cook joke.
It's like a truth. It's the truth.
Yeah. And I've always been like, I wonder if that is true. He had a joke about that, about like somebody getting hit by a car and both shoes flew off. And I was like, damn, what? Like, it sounded like a real joke. Like he saw someone get hit, and I was like, Jesus.
Dude, the craziest part about comedy is the more you watch, the more it's like, oh, is that true? It's like, yeah, probably. You know, these people are like, oh, these people like come up with these elaborate stories, and it's like, no, like the really, really good stuff. It's probably like
yeah. If you look, because basically comedians are just like we're just like, we just do commentary on life. You know what I mean? So we're either like looking at trends from the outside in, predicting the way things are going to go in a cynical nature, in a positive nature, or just mocking the way things are currently done. And it's supposed to make people who don't think about that stuff on the daily basis, which I mean, I can't imagine. I like to think like ignorance is bliss, you know, because
100% is.
As a comedian, you're just like, you look at everything and you're like, that's stupid.
It's funny you say the cynical part, because it's like before you were mentioning how that fat comic that's worried about losing their weight, same thing with that sad comic where it's like, oh, well, if I'm happy and positive, I'm not going to be funny. And it's
exactly. Yeah. I like being sarcastic on stage, but I'm not like that in real life, you know, like it's just funny to me on stage.
I don't know how to explain it. It's like recently it's all those things, my own insecurities and flaws that I've been like pretending or whatever. It's like I bring them out now. It's like I can't even explain what's happening. It's like all those things like over the years people would laugh at. I had no control over blah, blah, blah. Now it's like they laugh with. It's like I can't even, it's super surreal. It's surreal, this art form, because it's like modern day philosophy. And a lot of people I respect are just like, oh, you gotta, or when I started, we're like, you gotta make people laugh first. The rule is to make people laugh. But now I'm around other like-minded people. It's like, you gotta speak the truth. You know, you gotta speak from your gut. You gotta tell your truth. Like, I don't care if it's funny or not. Just tell me the truth. Make it funny. If you're a good comedian, make it funny.
The biggest thing with comedy is just like, I was about to say that like you need to be confident, like choose confidence when you step on that stage. Like you have to own the moment essentially and sell your act to the crowd, because you see some people where if they're unsure of their joke, you can hear it in their voice and you can see it in their posture, and it makes the crowd like uncomfortable. But then at the same time, I'm like, there are comedians who do kind of play into that almost unsureness of
right?
themselves, right? But yeah, it's more so like, oh, they're gonna be like that when they get off stage. They can't. It's not like they can put on an act.
Like confidence is a funny word to use there because I think it's confidence, obviously, but like we're salesmen. It's more like it's more like you find what that is for you and you own it. If you're a timid, shy person, when you go on stage, you fucking own that shit. So it's like, yeah, confidence is obviously the right word because no matter who you are, you're going to be more confident, thus in turn more comfortable in your own skin. But like, I think what you're trying to say is like, just own it. Like whatever your thing is, like you're saying now you're sarcastic, but sarcastic makes you laugh. So obviously be sarcastic. The whole thing is make yourself laugh. You're supposed to have fun, right? But it's just like over time, you're just going to be like hanging out with your girl one night and she's going to be peeing laughter. And you're going to figure out exactly what you did to do that.
Yeah.
Comedy's a weird one.
Dude, that's the best, is like that confidence too of making like a partner laugh all the time. You're like, oh, I got this shit in the bag. You know, like it's not like they're an easy laugh.
No, they're the hardest. They're the most critical of you.
Oh yeah, exactly, because they want you to do well.
You know? Yeah, but they've also like seen you in your most insecure. They've seen you kill. So it's like, and they're deciding that like for the time being, if not forever, you're their person. So they obviously want you to succeed.
Hey everybody, Johnny here. Just want to take a quick second to thank our newest Patreon subscriber, CLB. I appreciate your support, and because you are subscribed to the show for just $1 a month, you're getting this episode before anyone else. If you want to be cool like CLB, head to patreon.com/TheJohnnyRogers and join in on the fun. All right, now back to the episode. Yeah, there's an investment in that, again, like confidence or like willingness to own the moment. Vulnerability, I guess, is like a huge factor in that too. Like just being it, because people are, again, so like scared of just being themselves outwardly. I think most of the time that's what it is. Like they think like, oh, who I am isn't A, good enough, or B, it's not, nobody's gonna like it. But then what we all need to realize is like every single person who's like a mega superstar, whatever, it's just them. It's just a version of them that they just unapologetically kept being for years upon years upon years upon years until it worked, you know?
Like for us, it's funny you're saying all this. Like at the back room, and sorry to throw the plug, we focus on vulnerability. We focus on that. And then over time, I think that's what's happened with me is that I'm now unapologetic. Where before it would be like, you know, you're funny, you know, you make people kill, but then you're going up there with these jokes and you're just like, these are jokes. But like now I'm going up there with me, and it's just like, and it's, don't get me wrong, it's still jokes, it's still written, it's still not, it's still improv, it's still not, but it's just like, it comes from my soul. And it's just like, it's exactly like you're saying, it's like for so long, that's like, those are the three things. You need confidence or to own it. You need to like believe in whatever. And then you need to, well, the first rule of sales is you got to believe in yourself and the product. And like when you're a comedian or any artist, your art is your product if you don't want to believe that or not. Vulnerability is just like, no matter how you do it, you either are unapologetic until you can become vulnerable, or you're vulnerable until you're unapologetic about it. But like come check out the Backroom Comedy Club, because like that's what we're focusing on. That cocktailed with like some of the best up and comers in the scene that like have a place to build something with seasoned pros that should already be household names. So it's like,
it's the sharing, it's the network of that I love more than anything, right? Like, and that's what I've been trying to do with this podcast as well, is like you said earlier, shine a light on people that I respect and people that I want to also see, get people from my audience come over and see you guys.
You want people to succeed. That's what makes you different than some people. We're like, your whole, sorry to cut you off, but like you want all of your guests to take off, and then you could be like, hey, I was a part of that.
Or not even that, just like come, like you really like this person, you just found out about this person, they search for whoever that guest is, and they come across this conversation, and they get to see like this kind of raw hour-long conversation where you really dive into like who that person is, you know? I just want that to be available on the internet for that person, for their fans, for like shining kind of that moment on them. Because I see that in so often in the US, and that's why a lot of them are very successful, is because everyone helps each other. Everyone just like come
Teamwork
on my
makes dreams.
podcast. Exactly. So I feel like we need more of that in Canada and less of people thinking that they need to go somewhere else in order to succeed. It's like, no, it's online. It's not like there's a time delay. Like somebody in the Philippines could be watching this conversation right now and they have no idea who either of us are. Like you can reach any audience. It doesn't matter where you are.
And what people don't realize too is like you're just finding your audience. Like when we went from Bubbies Boys to release the Coke Dads podcast, I don't know if Ariel told you, we lost a lot of fucking followers.
Oh yeah.
And then over time, we just were unapologetically ourselves, and it came like we surpassed the followers we had to begin with. Yeah. So it's just like you're looking for your own audience, and you hit the nail on the head. It's teamwork, and people always talk about how there's such a slow ceiling in Canadian entertainment, and it's like I don't know. And going back to the theme of being a Jew, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it's maybe that like maybe it's time to blow that ceiling open, you know.
Like they already like look, if major film studios are going to be like coming to Toronto, coming to Montreal, coming to Vancouver, like they're coming for a reason, you know, beyond the fact that maybe it's like permit fees for filming are cheaper. I get that, you know what I mean? Like you can make Toronto look like New York for like a quarter of the cost than renting out a street in New York City. So I get that, but we should be taking advantage of these like it's like the same thing where if you want to know like what a good neighborhood is to move into, look for a Starbucks. You don't even have to go to the Starbucks. But the point is that Starbucks as a company has already done the research into an area and looked to see, is this going to grow? Is this going to be having like a lot of higher income individuals or whatever to be a nicer area? Then they invest, you know, millions of dollars into this establishment. So it's like they've already done the legwork for you. You just need to insert yourself. Same thing with the entertainment industry. We just need to be working and blasting ourselves online.
No, it's a beautiful thing. It's really cool to see like things happening. Like look at Che Durena just moved to New York. Ryan Long's had success. Like even if you want to look more local, like going back to that film conversation you just had, how cool is it that Sandler was in town a couple of days or weeks ago, and some of our friends got to perform in front of Adam Sandler?
Yeah, he was just hanging out at the comedy clubs, like telling people that they were doing great and like, you know, love that joke and like taking photos.
Opened up for
Russell Peters.
Like saw Nima live. Like how cool is this?
And if people want to, you can go back and listen to Nima Naz's episode. You can go listen to Ryan Long's episode. Like, you know,
crazy. Like it's insane.
I'm gonna get Che Durena on. Don't you worry.
Yeah, follow him, you fucking idiots.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love just like the go get 'em attitude of people in this industry, and it's going to be very clear in the next like 5 to 7 years the people who were like, fuck it, I'm going for it, and then the people who were like, no, that's stupid, why would I ever do that, like I don't want, you know what I mean? Like
we've been open 5 months and I can see like it's kind of crazy, and like you've been seeing the posts and you've been seeing the stuff, like it's kind of insane what me and Ariel have built for ourselves. And it was like, at first that was the goal. We wanted to get better, but like, we're already pretty fucking good. And it's like, now we get to help people and now people are helping us. And it's just like, it's insane. Like a group of, like I said earlier,
the network should be, you know?
Yeah. A group of like-minded people can change their world. Right. So it's like, it's insane.
Build that Canadian comedy industry because it needs help.
Hey man, I'm not going anywhere. Originally he's like, yeah, let's open the club and I'm gonna go on tour. And recently I'm like, nah man, I like the comedy club. Like I'll meet you on tour, but I'll be here.
You're like, I'm gonna have a residency here.
Yeah, I'm cool. Until did you watch the New Kids on the Block, or not the new Kids in the Hall documentary? Car accident, bro. Car accident, weed. They were at the Rivoli, and over time it was like 6 people showed up, then 12, then 30. Then they sold up and they had a lineup. And my goal is to like work as hard as I can until I show up at 814 Bloor Street West with a lineup of people coming to see our show.
Hell yeah,
that's the goal.
That is like having little milestones like that for yourself too in your goals and in your aspirations is another thing that just motivates that obsession in like a straight line almost. Because like the coolest part about comedy specifically is there are countless examples of the way that your career could go. You know, like you're like, if I want to write for a sitcom, I have 30 examples of like people who have done that, and I can follow that exact career path and most likely make it if you just literally put your head down and do the work, right? Same thing, like
I've never done that. Like, it's cool you're saying that. I have a comedian I look up to that looked up to Jim Carrey, followed the blueprint, and tried to do everything Jim Carrey did. I just never thought of that. I just have always kind of just done my own thing, and I kind of lucky. Like, I'm believe in the universe. I've been privileged enough to still kind of believe in God. Don't know, but that's the answer. I don't know, but I definitely believe the universe is in play. And it's just like I lucked into music. I lucked into comedy. Now it's like, oh, I'm working. Like, I found purpose, and it's just like all I know from my sales days is that if I work hard and I stay positive, nothing can like the world's yours. So we've seen it here at this show. We've had 2 really good weekends in a row. And the only difference is that we're working really, really, really hard, both of us. And it's like when the people come in, there might not be a direct correlation that they came from us, but we've noticed when we do nothing, no one comes in those doors. So it's like,
what's been your favorite moment since opening the club, like at the club itself?
As a producer, as a comedian, like as Brandon, like there's so much going on. Like, it was super cool the first time we did Midnight Mass here, and the show's on hiatus right now. But Black Zeus and Paul Thompson have some crazy chemistry, and then the whole concept of that show was to like do confessionals, and just to see comedians those upcoming weeks giving confessionals of things they shouldn't be telling people, that they're so funny. And it was just the greatest thing. Like, that's what I love about comedy. When you're laughing to the point of tears, nothing can beat that. Like, it's the best feeling ever. And then like my own experiences, like it's been cool performing in front of solo people. Like this last weekend, like humble brag for myself, but I did so well that my last joke got such a big applause break. Sorry, my second last joke got such a big applause break that the sound guy thought I was done and played me off. And it was like, that's how hard it popped.
He's like, oh, he's saying, thank you, good night.
He's like, oh, I saw you put the mic stand in and the audience popped. I thought you were done. And I was just like, well, like that's never happened before, you know?
Yeah.
It's I don't know, the experiences of like, I've seen some people that I know are going to be great. I've seen someone like Ben Bayfield work at this club and all over the city, obviously, but I've seen him go from like amateur comic to professional, just like
wow.
I've seen it. Like, you know, like you see, like I can't even explain that feeling when you see someone like get their black belt in stand-up comedy and you're just like you're looking around like it's incredible.
You're like, how is this guy such a killer already? Jesus.
Like that's like what did he do different from yesterday till today? That it's like,
I've been saying that, like, I remember when I started doing stand-up and then a few years in, like, started listening to podcasts, and then you're just listening to these conversations, like, especially comedy podcasts, you're listening to comedians who have been doing it like 20, 25 years, and then buying like books on doing stand-up comedy too. There's like millions of books written about it. So it just only makes sense that like the next generation of comedians are going to be even better at an even earlier age, because they have like unlimited resources with, like, if they want to know how to write like a one-liner, they can watch anybody. Like there's going to be 1,000 tutorials and 16 books just on one-liners.
But it's also the effort, right? Like that's the craziest thing about the life we live. You can be the most educated person in something. But like, it's like, I love reading comedy books, or at least I used to, but like, I love that, the perspective, but nothing has gotten me. I heard it on Schultz once, like 15 sets. That's the goal a week. And I'm up to 11, maybe 12. And it's like, you can see it. You can see if you put in 15 sets for a year or two, like, and then you got to define your own success. Like if you want to be a rich person and money is your value of success, then maybe comedy isn't for you. And if it is, you have to understand, like, they're like, talk to Russell Peters, talk to these guys. They all probably lived in their cars at one point. You know, like there's you got to be prepared if you want to be rich to have no money. But like genuinely, if you're like a big fan of comedy and you just want to be fucking hilarious, like, because like let's be real, I am fortunate now that I work at the club and I left my day job a couple weeks ago. But like for the average person, like they work. You know, to be good at comedy, when I was doing credit cards and I was really into comedy, there was nothing like, yeah, you're tired, but when you get obsessed and you get off work and then you travel to a show, it might not even go, you might be wearing your uniform and people think it's a bit. But it's like, no, I'm grinding right now. Like, not to change. I go, I'm not leaving the house. So you guys now get to see me in my uniform tonight. Like, it's crazy. It's the hustle. It's like anything
Yeah.
else. Look at like if you want to be a basketball player. So many people are like, oh, I want to go to the NBA. And it's like, what about coaching the future NBA players? What about playing in Europe? Why does it have to be the NBA? Like, why if I'm a comedian, does it have to be like, oh, he needs a Netflix special? It's like don't get me wrong. It'd be
You're like, I
dope,
need a YouTube special. That's what I need.
but like, why do we all put these like expectations on ourselves?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
why?
again, it's like what I was saying earlier about like the ladders of success. People they do their own thing, but they're always comparing themselves to the newest way that people are making it. So TikTok now, for example, people are like, oh, starting to do the TikTok thing, but then looking at the people who've made it and like, oh, why am I not matching? It's like none of that shit
None of that
matters.
works.
Do what you want to do, right? Like, just keep doing what you want to do repeatedly and be obsessed with it. And then, because if you stop doing that, it'll feel like work, and nobody wants that. Like, it's just such a shit
You don't get into
feeling.
this stuff for work. You get into this stuff to be different.
Exactly.
It's not work. So it's like, why are you doing that to yourself? But you still have to put in hard work, but like,
It's different though. It's like, it's
the love.
rewarding work almost. It's work that you're gonna see like a result on, instead of just like a minimum wage paycheck every 2 weeks, you know? Like, that work is different than the work that you put into your own like art form.
We see it all the time. Like, I don't have many friends my own age, but like when they come to the club, for instance, and I'm not saying my friends, I'm saying people my own age, you can tell like wife and kids and like cocaine and like stress, you know? And it's just like
Cocaine.
all a different path. No, but to you, you're like, it's rewarding. But to some people, they make 100 to 300K a year and they do cocaine. And to them, that's their stand-up or their music. That's an insane way to.
Yeah, it's like, it's just a weird way to balance your life out. Like, and I think it like starts to, I couldn't imagine my like, I don't even do stand-up that much, but I couldn't imagine like not being able to do it. You know, like I'm in the Mike McDonald's summer comedy competition. I'm producing a show at the end of the month on the 26th. So it's like, I am doing stand-up, but I could, like, that's how I balance myself out, right? Like, getting that moment to be myself on stage.
It's your own terms. It's like, I took time off after the accident. Like, Manolis Zantanos, I don't know if you've had him on. He's a Hamilton. I call him the Hamilton Godfather of stand-up. He has a quote where it's like, make stand-up a full-time hobby. And that's the best way to describe it, where it's just like, any art you love, like, don't, like, yeah, be obsessed with it, but don't consume yourself with it.
You can't be consumed with the numbers, like dollar or view wise, because that will just start to really like, it'll make you jaded, and it'll make you change the content in a direction that it shouldn't really go. Like, if money were no object, or weren't a factor in any of this, you would just do it the way that was the most fun for you to do. So it's like, why not just keep doing that then?
Like, I'm my audience, and a lot of people, when I create or like make content, or they'll be like, oh, where did you get that idea? Or how'd you come up with that? And it's like, it's me. Like, I'm doing stuff that I would watch. So it's like, even my stand-up, it's funny where you're just like, oh, like, what if you drop the mania? And it's like, well, sometimes I go on stage and it's the same fucking jokes, just low key. And it's just like, I'm my audience. Like, that's what the craziest part is. Eventually, like, you love your own shit. And that's when it gets dangerous, because like people get entitled. But
yeah, and they get attached to things too. Like, you have to love your own shit, but also know when to let it go, right? Like, there's some jokes that I've just had to been like, oh, I really love that joke, but like, it's not gonna work. Like, I can't. Yeah, so I had like an audition, I guess, at Absolute. Like, I called in for Ottawa here, and Jason answers, and he's like, yeah, come in on, you know, whatever, Tuesday or Wednesday and do a spot. And I'm thinking he's going to be there to watch the set, right? He's not there. And I was like, oh. And the door guy's like, he's never here, like, on like a Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever. He might be watching from the cameras, like, at his house, but he's not like showing up to the club. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I was trying out this new joke where I call someone like a treasonous cunt, and then I explain that like I'm actually compliment, like I know I say that like I know like I shouldn't have even said that right now, like that's a terrible word, like treason is such a heavy accusation, and just go right back to that. And then I'm like, oh, you thought I meant cunt. Like, no, that part's like a compliment. And I kind of break down the word cunt, but I say it so many times, and I had no idea that he really hates that word. Like if he had have been there, I probably would never have worked at Absolute Ottawa ever. I would have been blackballed for sure. Because the guy came up to me after, one of the door guys, and he was like, hey, great set, everything was awesome, just never do that joke here again. I was like, all right.
Great set just changed everything about you.
Yeah. But it puts you in that position where you're like, damn, like if I do want that joke to evolve and get better to the point where it's not so off-putting for some people, or it's not so hard hitting, I guess, I need to talk it out. Like I need to work it out. I need to like keep trying it in different ways. So to limit yourself again like that, you're like, am I limiting myself, or am I doing this for the benefit of something else? And that's where you're mixing business and your art form, and that's where it starts to get like
you gotta self-serve, but you also gotta take. That's the craziest thing about being an artist, is like it's self-serving, but it's also, if you ever want to sell your art, you're gonna have to be open-minded to listen to other people.
Yeah. So it's like, like you can't say that on the CBC.
Yeah, but it's just like the guy. Like for me, I don't know. I'm at the point now where it's like I would ask you why. Like, why do you break down that word? And then I would probably get you to say something hilarious and be like, hey, say that instead of saying the C word.
Yeah. Well, I say I'm like, if you've ever, the joke is like, I say cunt is actually like a complimenting word. It stands for charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. And like RuPaul said that on RuPaul's Drag Race. And if there's anybody that knows a cunt, it's RuPaul. And I just kind of like go into that because I thought that was hilarious that like he openly says that on the show. And I was like, how come nobody's talking about this?
It's just funny to me. It's funny to me that like stand-up's your own. So it's like, none of it matters. I've been doing this show for a decade. The greats have been doing it 30, 50 years. Like none of it, like even conversations like this where it's like, if they like you, they should book you. If they don't, like, or if they like you, say that word. He told, like, it's just funny to me, but it's just like, you know?
I'm still going to do it other places, but it's like the restricting yourself in certain terms. You're just like, you have to kind of be okay with that, because you have to be confident in the way that you want to do your style of art, whatever it is, and also be okay when people are like, they don't like it at all. You know what I mean? You have to just be like, all right, that's cool. Change the channel.
I've been doing a lot of shows like recently, trying to get myself booked out of Backroom and like doing other shows. And I reached out to someone who I think is funny and runs a good show. And when she got back to me, she was just like, hey, I think you're hilarious. It's just my audience. Like, it's just like, okay, like, it's just funny to me where I am a tired Teddy. I don't see me actually offending people. But at the end of the day, I've heard, probably in my whole comedy career, I've heard it like 2-3 times where it's like, hey, like, you're aggressive. And it's like, oh, okay, like, fuck, what do you want? Like, what do you want?
You're like, all right, you're gonna make me angry right now from saying that.
No, it doesn't make me angry. It's just it's like I like to see life in other people's perspectives. So whenever that's happened, it's just so funny to me where it's just like, it's like you go up there and you'll say that, and people will be like, hey, just don't say that next time. And then I'll go up there and be like, oh, like my girlfriend pisses me off, and they'll be like, whoa. What? Like, where's the what? Like, you know? But it's obviously like, yeah. It's just funny.
I get it. One question, we're nearing the end here, so I want to ask you some final questions. A question I love asking guests is, if you could make a phone call to 15-year-old Brandon, it's in a separate universe, doesn't affect your timeline, you give him a piece of advice, what would you say?
Don't smoke so much weed. Just don't smoke, actually, probably. Does he know it's from me?
Yeah, he knows it's you.
Yeah, just like find another hobby than smoking. You know, it's a pretty good one.
I like that.
Like anyone who knows me knows I'm a big weed activist. Well, not anymore, it's legal, but like now not so much. But like I still smoke it a lot. I believe the word chronic comes into play. And I like my cigarettes, and it's just one of those things where I don't think when I started, I knew not necessarily the repercussions, just that it's an unnecessary habit to have. And it's just like, you know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things, like I'm spending money to breathe heavy, and it just doesn't make sense. And the weed thing is fun, but it gets to a point where it's like, I just did a bunch of work. I want to smoke a joint. Oh, I just did this. I want to smoke a joint. And again, not a bad thing, but then the joint leads to the cigarette. And then it's just like, I don't know, I just think I'd be super more productive, but I am who I am. So
yeah, I had that problem too when I was quitting. I quit smoking. I've just been hitting this Juul vape. It's still nicotine, but like at least I'm not, inhaling whatever other gases, I guess. It's all kind of the same. It's Coke. It's Coke and Diet Coke, right? Like that's all it is. But I'm like that. It was that feeling of like not having any cigarettes and knowing that I wasn't going to buy more. And you have that battle with yourself where you're telling yourself that, like, because there's this weird, like, overwhelming voice or like notion in your body to go get that thing, go get the cigarettes, right? Like, and even your brain will be like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would you go do that? And your body's still like, I don't care, go get it, And it's not, it wasn't even, I always said it wasn't even the cigarette I wanted. It was like the pursuit. It was like the going to the store, the taking out the pack, peeling off that wrapper, like tapping it, pulling out the cigarette, and it was all of that. It was all ritualistic, like attached to the chemical. The chemical was just like the cheese at the end of the maze, basically.
The chemical has such a control where it's just like you're like, we're almost done, and then my brain's immediately like, cigarette. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, that's such an unnecessary.
It would be like a winter storm outside, and I'm like, I'll go.
3 hits, and you're like, okay. I would also tell myself to get a trade. I think that trades is like, not so much. I've met a lot of people that come to comedy and they like, I just think trades are an unutilized thing. I think everyone wants to be a comedian or a DJ or a doctor or a lawyer. Trades are dope and they make good money and they probably have their nights off. So it's like, I probably would have been like, go like get a trade. Just, you can still do comedy. You can still
have it. Yeah.
When I was 18, I got my real estate license. And like, honestly, going back in time, I'd have been like, just go get your plumbing thing. Like, go,
Yeah.
Because then now you would get phone calls, get paid like 40 an hour, put in 4 hours, 5 hours work, come to the club. Like, it wouldn't like.
Yeah, you'd be totally fine. Oh, that's good, man. Another question I like asking as well is like, because these podcasts and videos are hopefully like a little bit of a time capsule, right? Like this will just exist on the internet for God knows how long till Armageddon hits, right? Hopefully 50-year-old Brandon will one day search up this episode and look back through
I'm
it.
almost there, bro.
Do you want to leave him a message?
Like a year? No, the 50-year-old Brand. This good work, man. Like, started a little later than everyone else, but like exactly. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, if I'm still alive, you're doing exactly what we have planned, and I'm super proud of you. Because like, you don't hear it enough. You're extremely talented, and you're fucking the most at that point, you're the most electrifying comedian in the country, and I'm super proud of you. Like, hard work pays off. Don't stop.
I love that.
Or if it wasn't like it was, you get it. You understand.
Yeah, of course. That was exactly what I was looking for. Now we play one more game before we get out of here. I'm going to show you a photo of yours, and you just have to provide context for the lovely people watching on Twitch and YouTube. What is happening in this photo?
Oh, this is dope as fuck. Okay, so I was in a cover band in high school. We played a lot of ska music. If you can't tell, I love mozzarella sticks. And this was at a reunion show. I think this is like first or second year university. We threw a party to like bring everyone together. That's actually my high school football jersey. Shout out to 52. But that's me spinning the trumpet because I've always been a showman. But it's just, honestly, we are playing. It's either on break because I can see people behind me, and it's just me spinning a trumpet, just super happy that it was a really good night. It was like a New Year's party. It was just a really good night. So
That's fantastic, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Like, I really appreciate you making the time, and I'm gonna tell people go follow you on Instagram at Brando Jokes. Go follow the Backroom Comedy Club and check out the Wyrdo Carnival variety show Sundays at 10 p.m. in Toronto at the Backroom Comedy Club. You can follow them as well.
When Johnny's in town, he will be doing some of the songs off his album show, so keep it in mind.
Have you listened to the album?
I started to, and then I realized that I had so much to do that you did. Like, I don't have headphones right now, so once I have headphones,
you need headphones for sure. I wouldn't play my.
Yeah, I'm not playing it at the club, so Ariel's like, "What's going on?" It was one of those things where it's like, "Okay, don't have headphones right now," and like, yeah, you get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, go subscribe on my Patreon page, everybody. Patreon.com/TheJohnnyRogers. You get tons of member benefits, ad-free episodes, and you get them as soon as they're done. You get them way beforehand.
Did you try to remember Coke Dad's podcast?
Yes.
It's not us, it's our dads. But you'll see.
Yeah. Because people immediately think you said Coke dads. It's like, this is a couple of dads who are on cocaine.
I think me and Ariel have a kid together. And they think I just snort lines off the baby's head. That's what people think. They actually, no one ever thinks
amazing.
No one ever thinks I'm the good dad with the diaper. Everyone thinks I'm a cokehead, and then me and Ariel have a baby together. It's insane.
It has to be the Coke Sons. Like, that's what you gotta do.
The new logo's gonna have Sons of.
Yeah, Sons of Coke Dads.
Yeah.
Hey, like Sons of Anarchy. There you go.
Yeah, I went back to that. If you check out, I used to do Sons of Comedy Steel City, because the parallels of like comedy in that show. But then after a year of that show, I was like, this is ridiculous. And then hit by the color. Yeah. No comedians selling guns.
No.
None that I have met. Not yet.
We'll let you know we'll let the people know if there's any comedians selling guns at any point.
Appreciate you having me on, my guy.
Of course, man. Do you have anything else you want to shout out to the people?
Honestly, I guess just keep doing you guys. Like, we're both proof that if you work really hard at something, you get better at it. And then that opens doors to who knows what. So if you really like something, work really hard at it and stay positive. And if it comes true, you owe me 10%. So
there you go. Thanks for talking, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. Hope you have a great night.
You too. Thanks again.
Later, bro.
You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.